You are listening to Shruti on World Space.
Welcome back to Nadopasana, the thematic program of music on Shruti. I'm your host Srividya Prakash. Today on Nadopasana, we pay tribute to the musician Smt.T.Muktha for her death anniversary. Talking to us is Sri Ravindra Narayanan. He and Sridhar were disciples of T.Muktha for several years and were closely associated with her. They have also written articles on Brinda and Mukta for Sangeetam.com and for the Shruti magazine. Ravindra Narayanan talks to us today about Smt.T.Muktha's qualities as a person, as a teacher, hallmarks of her music and much more. Could you tell us about how you started learning music from Smt.T.Muktha?
We were listening to Brinda and Mukta for a few years, for at least about 10 years, and we approached her in 1988 at a temple concert of hers in Madras. We asked her whether she could teach us. She asked us to come to her house that Sunday, and we went there. Then she asked us whether we had, from whom we had learnt music and up to what level. So we told her that we hadn't learnt music formally because we didn't have the time, and that we didn't even know the basic lessons, even the Sharali or the Jandavarishais. We had picked up a few songs from a housewife and also from cassettes. So she was very much surprised, and then she told us that, well, you see, I don't teach men these days. I only have female students. So what I'll do is, I'll introduce you to a good male teacher. You can learn from him, you know, the basics and kritis, etc. And then for specific songs, you can come to me. Okay. So we were thoroughly disappointed because we didn't want to learn from anyone else. We didn't have the idea of learning music because first thing, we didn't have the time. We were into business and all that. But, this idea, germinated in our mind, started, germinating in our mind for about 3 months before we approached her. So, this reply of hers was very disappointing. Then I told her that if it was so, then so be it. But that we didn't want to learn from anyone else. I told her that, Amma, we want to learn your style. Specifically, we want to learn songs that are considered the property of your family, like Dakshinamurti, Sri Matrabhutam, Veena Pustadharini, O Jagadamba, etc. So if you refuse to teach us, it's okay, that is your wish, but we don't want to learn from anyone else. That's what I told her. Okay. She was very much surprised, and after just about a minute or so, she said, okay, I'll teach you, when can you start? So that was how, we started.
So you had heard them sing for a very long time before you actually decided to approach Smt.T.Muktha?
Yes, for almost 10 years, or even more.
You were quite young then.
We were quite young when we started listening to them, about 16 or 17 only we were. But this happened, in a rather strange way. In 1976, Brinda was the president of the annual conference of that year's Music Academy conference. And on Sadas, after she got the Sangeeta Kalanidhi, Chemmangudi Srinivas Iyer spoke. And he said that I myself have learnt a lot of kritis from this lady. So that surprised us very much because we had never listened to her. We only knew that she was a cousin of Bala Saraswati, the famous dancer.
Okay.
Otherwise, we had heard about Brinda and Mukta, but we had never listened to them. We were listening to basically Chemmangudi, M.S. Subbalakshmi, M.L. Vasanta Kumari, M.T. Ramanathan, D.K. Jayaraman, D.K. Pettamal, etc. So when Chemmangudi said this, it was very surprising, and we thought, well, then this lady was not an ordinary musician.
Right.
And then after that, we started listening to them. So whenever they gave concerts, but they had already stopped singing together.
Right.
In 1968 itself. So they were singing, they were giving individual concerts. That was how we started listening to them. It was very tough, trying to understand their music, because their music had no stylistic peculiarities like, say, you can find in a Shemmangudi or a Balamurali Krishna or an M.D. Ramanathan or an M.L. Vasandakumari.
Right.
It appeared simple, and as youngsters, as teenagers especially, it was very boring and frustrating for the first few months. I mean, and their concerts were also, they did not give regular concerts.
Right.
So we had to listen to them on the radio whenever they gave radio concerts. And occasionally, say once in 3 months or 4 months, they used to give a concert, say in Sastri Hall in Madras or so.
Okay.
So that was, but slowly, words of Shemmangudi Srinivasa Iyer, and then later we also learned that M.S. Balakshmi had learnt a lot of songs from Brinda.
Right.
And, there were many Rasikas who were attending their concerts who said that this was a very unique style, and their repertoire was of songs, especially of the compositions of the Trinity were large and all that. So we had to, as youngsters, we had to have a lot of patience to keep listening to them. In the early years, it was very frustrating. We couldn't really understand actually as to what was their speciality.
Thanjavur Mukta was born to Kamakshi, Veena Dhanammal's last daughter, in September 1914. Here is one of the songs that T.Mukta came to be known for. Let's listen to Veena Pustakadarini in Raga Vega Vahini Kanda Ekatala. The composer is Muthuswami Dikshitar. This song is from the album T.Mukta Classical Kritis released by Karnataka. T.Mukta renders this with Savitri Satyamurthy on the violin, Umyalpuram Mali on the mridangam, P. Ganesh on the chitraveena, and S. Saumya providing vocal support.
Oh
Brinda and Mukta had their initial training under their mother Kamakshi. Kamakshi then took them to the maestro Kanchipuram Naina Pillai. They spent 3 to 4 years at Kanchipuram learning from Naina Pillai in the traditional Gurukula system. Kanchipuram Naina Pillai did not teach Mukta directly but allowed her to play the tambura for her sister's lessons and also join her during her practice sessions. At any point of time, did Smt.T.Muktha ever feel overshadowed by her sister Brinda? When they were taught by Kanchipuram Naina Pillai, he actually initially refused to teach Mukta. And also when they sang together, was it Brinda who would take the lead?
It was not a question of taking the lead. When they sang together, Brinda would sing the alapanas, the neraval and the swaras. Otherwise, during the song rendition, both of them were equal.
Right.
And in many of the places, in many songs, Mukta would sing in the higher octave.
Yeah.
Overshadowed, she, on her own, Mukta decided to, live under Brinda's shadow. She was content to sing along with her without alapanas and all that.
Okay.
In the first place, their style, neither their grandmother Dhanamal nor their mother or aunts, they never sang Neraval or Swaraprastara.
Right.
So it was not considered important. It was only Brinda who sang. And that too not very, elaborately. Her alapanas usually did not exceed 10 minutes.
Okay.
So there was no question of a half an hour or 45-minute alapana and all that. Naina Pillai did not teach Mukta personally because he thought that Mukta's voice was very rough and, it could not be molded. But after that 4-year study with Naina Pillai, when they went home, both of them were taught by their aunt Lakshmi Ratnam, who was the second daughter of Dhanamal. And Dhanamal also taught both of them a few songs and padams. in 1934, a few months before Nayana Pillai died, he had arranged a concert for both of them at the Ramanavami series, which he used to organize in Kanchipuram.
Right.
And when he heard both of them sing, he called aside Kamakshi, that is Brinda and Muktha's mother, and told her, Kamakshi, I made a big mistake in not teaching Muktha.
Right.
She sings very well. She's equal to Brinda. That's what Nayana Pillai told Kamakshi.
You earlier mentioned that it was a family tradition that they didn't concentrate much on Manodharma. That is, they used to do Alapana, but not much of Neraval and Swaraprastara. But with the changing times, did Brinda and Muktha want to change that?
No, they did not. They did not. They kept up their, whatever was their policy, right from the beginning till the end, till their death, they did not change their policy. And Muktama's Alapanas were even shorter, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, Even the main raga would be about 7 or 8 minutes. But their Manodharma was such that they could bring out all that the raga had to, offer. There were no frills, unnecessary frills or, extravagance or flamboyance. That was totally, these qualities were totally absent from this. Brinda had a very beautiful voice, a kind of a honey-dewed voice. And Muktha's voice was totally opposite. It was rough. But there was essentially no difference in the style or the singing. I mean, if you listen to the few recordings that are available of their singing together,
right.
You can notice that, when they sang in the middle tempo,
okay.
their voices sounded as one.
Right.
I mean, there was absolutely no difference. It was only when Muktama would sing in the top octave in certain lines,
right.
for example, that you could notice that, here two people are singing.
Okay.
So there was absolutely no difference in the style.
On Nadopasana today, we pay tribute to the musician Smt.T.Muktha for her death anniversary. T.Muktha had several disciples like D.K. Pattamal who learnt a few javalis and padams from her. Among her other students are R. Vedavalli, S. Saumya, Savitri Satyamurthy and Nirmala Sundararajan, apart from Ravi and Sridhar. Ravi now speaks of Smt.T.Muktha's qualities as a teacher. As a teacher, what were Smt.T.Muktha's techniques? For instance, could you just ask her, if you wanted to learn a particular song, could you just ask her for that song? Would she feel that you weren't ready for something and so she wouldn't teach you that?
Yes, certainly. Initially, she had this reservation whether we would be able to properly learn the major songs. So, first she taught us about 8 or 10 small songs and then she started the bigger ones like Srimatrabhutam, Veena Puskadarini, Dakshinamurte. She was particularly hesitant about teaching us Akshay Linga Vibho. She particularly told us that it had a lot of complicated sangatis and also Dakshinamurte, if I remember right. And then she was reluctant to teach us padams. In the first place, we ourselves were reluctant to ask her to teach us padams because we wanted to, learn a lot of rare compositions in their bhani, the compositions of the Trinity especially. Yeah. So, as a teacher, but otherwise, after a year or two, I should say 2 years, she had no reservations. Whatever we asked, she taught us. So thus we learned many of the major pieces that were associated with their family, like Chetasri, which is totally different from the way Shamangudi or KVN used to sing.
She also taught the Veena to some students.
Not Mukta.
Okay.
It was Brinda who taught the Veena to many because what happened was Brinda and Mukta were both taught the Veena by Dhanammal. They were actually learning the Veena from Veena Krishnamachari, who was a brother of Tiger Vardacharya. So Dhanammal once dropped in at Krishnamachari's house and saw that the style was not at all appealing and his method of teaching was also not right in her opinion. So she called the girls aside and said, "You come to me from tomorrow, I'll teach you both the Veena."
Okay.
Both of them went and Mukta dropped out after a few days because she couldn't get the fingering right. She told her grandmother that she was content to, sing. So Brinda learned the Veena from Dhanammal And she has also given Veena concerts. She also taught the Veena to a few students. Later, there was this disciple of M.A. Kalyana Krishna Bhagodar and K.S. Narayan Swami called Nirmala Parthasarathy. She is a Veena artist. She has given several concerts. She approached Mukta and asked her to, requested her to teach her. Mukta was first hesitant, but later she agreed. So Mukta used to sing and Nirmala used to play on the Veena.
Okay.
So that way, and of course when Nirmala made a mistake, she would correct it and say that this phrase should not be, played in this manner, but, it should come from the other swara.
They stuck to that oral tradition.
They stuck to their oral tradition. They never, consulted any books.
Right.
Nothing, absolutely. It was much later, I think in the 60s, that their younger brother, Kodandaraman, he started notating some of the important songs. And then Vedavalli also did it. Vedavalli was learning from Mukta at that time. She also notated some of the songs she learned from Mukta. So otherwise, they had no use for books. But Mukta, with her students, she was very liberal in the sense that she did not discount the modern methods of. She would allow us to record our lessons. Then after she taught us a song, she would record that song itself. Sometimes a complex Sangati she would notate for us. Not personally, she would dictate to us and we would write down. In contrast, Brinda never allowed anyone to record or write down notations, nothing. Whenever a disciple used to ask Brinda, can I record? She used to say, ask me 1,000 times, I'll teach you. But no recording. You record it in your brain. That way it will stay permanent.
Okay.
But Mukta was different. She also, recognized that people had to make a living. And that music could not be a 24-hour thing in everybody's lives as it was in their life. So she recognized these conditions of modern days, and therefore she allowed us to record, sometimes even write down. Of course, we could take recourse to books, and she used to tell us, this was her quality. She used to tell us that sometimes in some kritis, we make mistakes, because we've never looked at books. So sometimes you make mistakes in words. What you do is, you go home, look up the book and correct the mistakes. So that was her quality. So she never allowed us or anyone, any other disciple to change the music, even one Sangati. No additional Sangati, nothing. Okay. And whatever Sangatis she taught, we had to sing. There was no compromise in that.
T.Muktha now sings a Javali composed by Dharmapuri Subbaraya. Smara Sundaranguni is in Ragafaras and Aditala. Brinda and Mukta were with Kanchipuram Nayana Pillai for 4 years. They were then taught by their aunt Lakshmi Ratnam. During this period, T.Mukta learned several compositions of Dikshita Shama Shastri, Subbaraya Shastri, Patnam Subramanya Iyer and others. Veena Dannammal herself taught the duo a few kritis and padams. Brinda and Mukta sang together for several decades. Later on, T.Mukta also gave concerts on her own. After Brinda and Mukta stopped singing together, did Mukta's approach change when she started giving concerts on her own?
No, it did not change. Even after she started singing alone, and she sang alone for almost more than 30 years, from 1970 to about 2003 was her last concert. She did not sing Naraval or Swaraprastara.
Okay.
Only alapanas, that too 2 or 3 maximum alapanas in a certain concert. She concentrated in singing some of the rare compositions. That was perhaps, I could cite that as difference in approach. Yes.
Songs that Smt.T.Muktha became most associated with?
Karu Baru of Tyagaraja Karu Baru in Mukari, Paramatmadu Velige, Vagadishwari. The smaller songs like Vinaveyo Manasa, and then Varasiki Vahana in Supradeepam, then Sitavara Sangeeta Jnanamu. These were some of the Tyagaraja songs. As far as Dikshidhar was concerned, Veena Pustakadharini in Vegavahini, Sri Matrabhutam in Kannada, Dakshinamurti in Shankarabharanam, Chetasri in Vijavanti, Sri Subramanyaya Namaste. You know, many of these songs are quite different in their version from what you can hear now. Even a small song like Swaminatha Paripalya in Nata used to sound very, very much different.
What were her favorite padams?
Her favorite padams were Payyada in Nadanamakriya, Maname Bhushanamu in Shankarabharanam, then the Ganta Padam, Neyamuna, the Sahana Padam, Morotopu, and the Begada Padam, Yala Padare. She used to sing a lot of padams, but mainly these were her favorite. The Ahiri Padam, Mosamaye, that was also a favorite. The Kamboji Padam, Bala Vinave, the Kalyani Padam, Kadari Vagalama.
What about composers? In that vast repertoire that they had, who would her favorite composers have been?
All the three of the Trinity.
Okay.
She had equal respect for the three of them. It depended on her mood. She would give equal importance to the three of them. But sometimes she would sing a larger number of Dikshidhar songs. And she has given special concerts, Dikshidhar only songs, then Shama Shastri only songs. And they knew a lot of songs of Subbaraya Shastri, the son of Shama Shastri.
Today on Nadopasana, we pay tribute to the musician T.Mukta for her death anniversary. Our guest on the show is Sri Ravindra Narayanan, who along with Sridhar was a disciple of T.Mukta for several years. Together, they have also written several articles on Brinda and Mukta. On the show today, Sri Ravindra Narayanan talks to us about Smt.T.Mukta's qualities as a person, as a teacher, hallmarks of her music and much more. In one of her concerts, as you mentioned in your article, Smt.T.Muktha sang Bhairavi and Mukari in succession. That must have been quite a unique experience for the listener, and it would have also taken people by surprise because it was so unorthodox.
Yes, it was not only unorthodox. People like us who were her disciples were actually afraid. There was absolutely no, she didn't even think about it. She simply started on Mukari after Bhairavi, and both were major songs.
Okay.
She sang an Alapana for about 6 or 7 minutes in Bhairavi and sang Raksha Bitre,
Right.
which is again one of their favorite songs. Kriti of Tyagaraja. Immediately, after not even 10 or 15 seconds, she started an Alapana of Mukari and then sang Karu Baru.
Okay. So you were actually nervous.
Yes, we were actually nervous, but there was absolutely no mistake. And then we asked her after, I think in our next class, I asked her, I told her that we were afraid.
Okay.
She asked, what is there to be afraid of? If you have your basics right, absolutely, there is no problem in this. And then I think 2 or 3 concerts after that in Shastri Hall itself. First she sang a Shankarabharanam and then she sang Dakshinamurti in it. And then she immediately sang Begada. So that was another very, there was absolutely no trace of Shankarabharanam in her Begada.
Okay.
As, we've seen in some other Vidwan. Shemmangudi himself used to say, there was no anavashyam in their music. There was nothing that was unnecessary in their music. Each and every phrase or each and every swara he used to say was absolutely essential and it was beautiful also.
Okay.
And it brought out the strength of their Manodharma. That is what he used to say. And we have also heard her sing once Yadukula Kamboji after the Kamboji. Many times. At least I can recall at least 4 or 5 such instances. But after that, after that one experience and after she told us that there's nothing to be afraid of if you have the basics right. I mean, we also took it in the ordinary or the normal.
But when she actually did it for the first time, for that Bhairavi Mukari instance, what were the reactions like? Not from you, from others?
Well, the reaction with some of those who were very, who for many years were listening to them, they were not surprised. But there were a few who were listening, who had only started listening then, say for a few years. They were very much taken by surprise. And if I remember right, 1 or 2 of them even criticized Mukta for this. Not directly, but in a conversation with other Rasiyas saying that this should not be done. And
could you tell us more about the last concert that she gave in 2003 at the Musri residence?
Yeah, actually she was very reluctant to sing. And she decided when Musri's grandson Tyagu persuaded her. She finally agreed and then said that that would be her last concert. So Saumya sang with her. And there was a big crowd, mostly of musicians, almost all of her disciples, because that was the last opportunity to listen to the last living doyen of the Dhanamal family. She started with the Yadukula Kamboji Varnam and went on to sing, there was this Begada Alapana. It was just about 1.5 minutes or hardly 2 minutes, but it was really the essence of that raga. Everyone was stunned. And then she went on to sing Veena Pustakadharini and Dakshinamurti. And then, many people started requesting her for padams and their favorite javalis and all that. So close to more than 2 hours, I think. 2 hours and 15 minutes, she sat and sang. And at the end of it, she was relieved and she told me, now it's all over. That's good.
T.Muktha taught at the Shanmukhananda Sabha Music School at Bombay for a few years. In March 2002, in spite of her advanced years, she travelled to Cleveland and gave a concert there at the Tyagaraja Aradhana. Brinda and Mukta had such a vast repertoire. How is it that they became so associated with Padams?
Many people thought that they knew only Padams because they used to sing at least 3 Padams in their major concerts, especially at the Music Academy. So many people thought that they knew only Padams. But
out of
one thing was many people did not understand their music, so many people did not like their music, right? And they did not have large crowds thronging their concerts. Hardly even in the music academy, there would hardly be about 400, 500 people at the most, you know. Okay. It was only in Cleveland that Mukta got a crowd of about 2,000 or 2,500 people, with many hundreds of the Rasikas standing and all that. And when she came back, this is another humorous thing. She remarked to us that this was the largest crowd that that any member of the Dhanammal family has got in his or her concert career. So she was very much surprised, saying that more than 2,000 people, you know, and I didn't really understand what was going on. She said, I first of all thought that it was someone else's concert. So people who did not, you know, like their music or who did not understand their music, they perhaps associated them with the Padams and Chavalis. Probably because no one else would sing them, excepting sometimes Semmangudi. And Semmangudi also, he would sing only one or two Javalis. I don't think he publicly sang the Padams, excepting the Sahana Padam once or twice, maybe. So that was why these Brinda and Mukta were associated with Padams.
If you were to describe Smt.T.Muktha in a few words, in a couple of sentences, how would you do it?
One thing that is enduring is she was one of the very few artists, musicians, who did not care about fame or money or titles or recognition and all that. All throughout her career as a musician, all throughout her life, her only concern was to preserve the legacy that was passed on to her by Dhanammal and preserve it in its pristine, pure form. And she also used to say that music is actually a spiritual sadhana. It is for realizing the truth, the eternal truth, and not for making money or becoming famous. And till the end, you know, she lived along those lines, never deviating from that path. That was, I would say, you can count such artists on the fingers of one hand. I can say only perhaps M.S. Subbulakshmi, M.D. Ramanathan, maybe one or two others, who, you know, thought of Sangeeta as Tyagaraja had envisaged it. Mukta used to say that Tyagaraja has said that Sangeeta is only for attaining moksha and for nothing else. If you are a musician and you have to make a living out of music, so be it. There's nothing wrong in that. But don't aspire for more than what you get. That was how she lived throughout her life.
You just heard Sri Ravi describing his guru T.Muktha. T.Muktha received awards like the Sangeet Natak Academy Award and Sangeeta Kala Acharya from the Music Academy, Chennai. She passed away on March 11, 2007. We now come to the end of our special feature on Srimati.T.Muktha. Stay tuned to Nadopasana on Shruti. Shruti.